So good morning, welcome to session 2. Just a reminder that because we are starting later for day 2, we aren't having a break after this. There will be a couple minutes to switch sessions, but there's not like a formal break, so we're pushing through till lunch. You are in the keynote streaming room, so if you do choose to ask questions, remember that those are going to be part of our streaming. Your audio will be part of that. And this is a traditional session, but there will be some interaction, so be prepared. We are in Spaces, Cases, and Faces, Libraries as Emerging Technologies Hubs. The presentation is by Bobby Reed and Ashley West from the University of Oklahoma. And also you have 2 other people listed, but they aren't here with you. So they helped you put it together. So.
They're members of our team.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that.
All right,
so
yeah,
they get a brief introduction.
All right.
Yeah.
So also you may be wondering about the camera up front here. You guys are going to address that, I think.
Yes.
But just so you know, it is not recording in your direction, only in the front direction. So try not to kick it if you are up and down.
Ashley, do you want to give a little preview of the camera before we get started?
Oh yeah, sure. This is a Garmin Verve 360 camera, so that's capabilities to do full 360, also live streaming, but like Melody said, we've changed the settings to it, so it's just facing us. So have no fear.
All right, let's get started. Sorry. This morning, we want to use our experience at the University of Oklahoma and our emerging technology team and our management of a few spaces as a case study. We're really hoping that we can present our efforts and our journey as a way to facilitate good small and large group discussions. So we'll be asking you to talk with your neighbors about a couple of prompts and questions, and then we'll be asking you to share out loud. As I said previously, if you don't want to do that, you can just submit your questions or responses to the Google link up there. So we want to talk first about who we are and our experiences moving forward, and then we're going to talk about the importance of building a community on campus to encourage buy-in for these emerging technologies. And then we're going to talk about how we're building our team to better prepare for the future.
Mm-hmm. So just to get us started, we'll talk about our emerging technology team origins. So we're a very diverse team with diverse backgrounds. Our unit was founded in 2013. We're a team of 5 individuals. Our Lucid software developer, John, is not pictured here. And primarily the reason that our team was developed, it was largely in part about great buy-in from our deans and administration. So our team was built to deploy, evaluate, and kind of create these really awesome emerging technologies that could be academic use at the university. And we wouldn't probably be here today if it hadn't been from the buy-in from our deans and that passion to want to push emerging technologies forward for the campus community. So kind of a day in the life of emerging technology. Librarian, we work on consultations, projects, assistance for faculty, students, and community members, so accessible for all. We also manage spaces around campus, so we'll get a little bit more into that later. We also facilitate workshops throughout all our experience. So this little slide right here, I wanted to kind of segue into this. This is kind of around turning ideas into reality. So our boss, Matt, whenever he founded the ETL team in 2013, he had this idea of providing things like virtual reality, 3D printing, 3D scanning to the campus community. This is actually a SketchUp from Sketchfab of a prototype of a virtual reality station that could provide a more seamless experience for virtual reality, which later then actually turned into reality through allies and collaboration on campus. So what you'll see in the next slide is an actual fabrication of this model, which was collaborated with the physics department. So you won't find this anywhere else on campus, and this kind of alleviates some people's hesitations of getting into virtual reality. So the full immersive experience and kind of removes some of the barriers to entry there. So we have multiple spaces on campus. I don't want to limit ourselves to being a maker space. We're more than that. We're a flexible experimentation and innovation space. So this right here that you see is Innovation at the Edge. This is actually housed inside our main library on campus. And the great thing is we're on the main floor, we're accessible, we're open, we're easy to get to. So within this space, we offer emerging technologies such as virtual reality, 3D printing, 3D scanning, electronics, microelectronics, fiber arts, photography. We're also a nationally recognized experimentation space. We're free and open to the public, so anyone can come in off the street, no matter if you're a staff, student, community member. We offer diverse programming, so anyone can participate. So our workshops, like Emerging Technologies 101 or 3D Printing 101, anyone can come. We also focus on a lot of outreach with K-12 schools in the community. We offer campus tours, so people that come in and kind of want to know what the library is about and what resources are available to them, and try to be as accommodating as possible. And we also have a great component of our flexible experimentation space. It is our student employees. So they're gaining really valuable, marketable skill sets. So when they graduate, they can actually go out into the job world with real tangible skills like 3D modeling or 3D printing or VR development. So something I'm going to talk about here is keeping your spaces refreshed. So as we all know, sometimes the term makerspace can get outdated quickly. I think it's really important to observe the hang-ups there. What is preventing your patrons from coming in and interacting with the space? So when I first came on board, I took some time and just kind of sat in the space to observe how people interact with it. What are people doing? Are they stopping at the door? Are they turning away? And that kind of led us to making some small improvements that actually really had a profound effect. So one of those is these little shelves you see here. So previously when people were coming in to pick up their 3D prints, they were kind of overwhelmed with a barrage of piles of prints, and we had to sift through them, find which one is theirs, and especially if someone's not comfortable with the space, then they provided some barriers there. So just with this simple, streamlined process, people were able to easily come in, pick up their prints, and walk away. And with that, we also implemented a 3D print queue using Google Forms and a Zapier integration with Trello. So when a patron comes in, one of our student employees can help the patron get their 3D print submitted, and that automatically populates into the Trello card, which provides some streamlined processes and also provides us to be able to see data as well. And another concept that I wanted to bring up is diversify your programming. So we offer new workshops. So we offer a 101 series if someone wants to learn the basics of 3D printing or exploring virtual reality or photography. No one has to have any prior background experience to come to these workshops. And that's something that I was really passionate about. I didn't want people to think that they had to have prior technological experience or background to take part in these sessions. And also these workshops are great opportunities for collisions. You never know who's going to walk into a workshop. It might be a community member who's looking to build a new prototype, or a staff member or a researcher that's trying to get their idea into reality. So with this diversified program, we're able to build a lot more interest in the space and get a lot more traffic in. And another component here is social media strategy. We all know young people like to get on social media and connect and find new workshops or new ways to engage with the campus. So we did a nice social media push to get people interested in what we're doing.
Absolutely. To speak a little bit more to the collisions, we try to build our skill sets up as much as we can. A big part of our job is self-directed professional development. We constantly have to learn new software, new hardware, some sort of new workflow to assist our researchers primarily. These collisions end up being one of the most valuable things we could possibly have for that reason, because at our best, honestly, sometimes we're just routers. We're just connecting different people on campus and saying, I don't have that skill set, but I know of someone in, say, the physics department that has it, and maybe we can figure out a way to leverage this relationship. So those collisions end up being incredibly valuable.
Yeah, I challenge you all to keep thinking about what's next. Always be on the forefront so you're able to stay ahead of the curve.
Absolutely. So that was our library space. We also at OU have tried to embrace this idea of embedded librarianship in our residence halls. So in 2009, one of our librarians, Karen Antel, actually went and lived in one of our freshman dorms for a year so that they could be the on-call reference librarian. Obviously, that's not going to be a permanent service, because who wants to permanently live in a dorm? That would be terrible. Cinder block walls and Department of Correction mattresses. Just doesn't sound fun. However, we decided to try again. So on January 26th of this year, I had my interview for the University of Oklahoma. On February 26th, I started my job as an emerging technologies librarian. And I really wondered, what am I going to be doing? I'd been a public librarian and a public school teacher before that, and I had no idea what I was going to be doing at an academic library with technology. I was excited, I had skill sets, but I wasn't quite sure what that day-to-day was going to look like. On March 26th, I accepted the first 3D print submission at the Couch 3D printing facility. That's down in the lower left-hand corner there, is right when I had accepted that from one of our undergraduate students. So that question that I had on February 26th, on my first day of like, what am I going to be doing at an academic library? It was answered really thoroughly by February 27th. I have a space to make, and I have to do it really, really quickly. So that's the space in the upper left-hand corner from the outside. It's a small corner of our Couch Tower residence hall. It used to be an IT closet.
Yeah.
about the size of a closet. It's not too big, a large closet. And then to the right, you can see one of our student specialists on the left side. That's Miguel Sanchez-Marin. He's hosting a friction stir welding workshop in one of the satellite rooms. And then directly below that, so that's a TAS 6 printing a pink and purple rock. We got a good reason, I promise. If you're interested, you can ask me about it later. So Couch 3D printing space officially opened in April of 2018. It is embedded within a freshman dorm, Couch Residence Hall. It has 2 satellite workshop spaces, which are really wonderful. We can host a variety of undergraduate library services, so we do a lot of just general open consultations for reference work there. But we also host a variety of emerging technology workshops like 3D modeling, 3D printing, mostly 3D modeling and 3D printing because we kind of focus on 3D printing in that area. We have 5 undergraduate student staff members that are just absolutely fantastic. Literally, it wasn't any sort of great thing by Ashley and I. We just got really lucky with this crew. And it's serving as a test case to our administration for further embedding our library services in different residence halls around the university. So, no pressure, no big deal. It's just all of our efforts on the line. So we have a variety of available equipment throughout our spaces. We have, for 3D printing, we have 1 Lulzbot TAS 5, we have 3 Lulzbot TAS 6s, so those are the bigger scale printers, and then we have 9 Lulzbot minis. And so those are quite a bit smaller, but are our workhorses. They do the vast majority of our work. We have roughly 8 running at any one time. We have a small side maintenance room that we host most of them in, and even if they are running, we kind of leave them in there ready for hot swap, because 3D printers break down a lot, and you really need to be ready to have you need to be willing to do a lot of maintenance on them. We also have some available devices that people can come in and use for 3D scanning. We have an iPad structure sensor, we have a next-engine laser scanner, and then our colleague Christy White is becoming quite adept at photogrammetry, so we can really provide those services for our greater campus community. Right now, we're actually working to build a sweep scanner as well, so we'll have the full variety very soon. For virtual reality, we have a couple of Oculus Rift stations, which you saw previously. We have the brand new Oculus Go's. We have 2. So that way we can take those out to outreach. We like to take those to K-12 schools and show kids, like, look what's on the horizon with technology. It's pretty exciting. We also have an HTC Vive setup that is hilarious. Sometimes you'll walk into our edge space and someone will be crawling around on the ground over by the HTC Vive because they're playing some game, or they need to get underneath their data for some reason in DataViz. We also have a variety of microcontrollers, Make kits, SparkFun kits, and Raspberry Pis. Actually, all of our printers are run on Raspberry Pis, so we have Raspberry Pis everywhere. And now recently, shout out to Jason Griffey, we've been implementing Measure the Future, and so there's Raspberry Pis everywhere. We recently upgraded all of our PCs to have GTX 1080s, so we're not quite top of the line, but we're about as top of the line as we could do economically. And then we also have some 360 video options. There's one right there on the floor. That is the Garmin Vert. And we are always keeping our eye on augmented reality. We haven't felt that the technology has caught up and become scalable at this time. So what we do is we try to get like one of every unit that comes out and kind of test it and see if it's time to move forward with it and actually apply it to the university in a larger sense. So right now we have a Microsoft HoloLens that we share with our OU VR club. And then we also have merge cubes for when people want to come in and just kind of experience what augmented reality is all about.
And to reiterate, all of this technology is free and accessible. So with that technology comes a learning curve. We all know that. Some people come in and are like, I want to learn this, or I want to know how to do this and turn it into reality. So, which is where we provide workshops. So we offer, like I said, a diversified programming list. So things like Photography 101, 3D Printing 101, 3D Scanning. We also offer an educator-focused series, so how to incorporate emerging technologies into the classroom is a really important workshop for us, which also provides the ability for collisions, like Bobby mentioned. So through that, instructors are coming to us and wanting to know how to implement 3D scanning into their courses, or how to implement 3D printing. So that's also how we build allies across campus and get that buy-in. Because people hear what emerging technologies are, but they don't know what's possible with them. So through these workshops, our goal is to educate and hopefully spark some new ideas and new creativity. Next up, we have community-focused workshops. So we have a librarian within our library who's very passionate about fiber arts. And it's actually a really popular workshop series that brings in a lot of different people from around campus and provides some really great conversation. So those are really popular. We offer those pretty much once a month. Kimimo has been very popular as well, and she also offers a fiber arts meetup, which allows people to come in and work on their projects and kind of discuss what they're working on. In addition to that, we offer electronics workshops, stress relief series, so Color Be Calm. Everyone knows that finals weeks are a really stressful time for students and instructors. So the idea here is we're going to bring people into the space and invite them to return. If people come in, they're more likely to re-engage with the space if they're familiar with what's going on. And we've seen a lot of positive feedback from these diversified programming lists. And I think it's important to offer them on a regular basis too, and diversified times, because everyone's schedules are different. So with that, we've had a lot of fun with diversifying that. So don't be afraid to think outside the box. That's what I'm getting at.
So with that, it's 10:17. We're assuming everybody's caffeine's hit a little bit. We're ready to be social, right? So we're going to ask you to turn to the people around you and take a look at some of the questions we're going to present you with, and maybe just use that to facilitate a discussion. We're going to give you about 5 minutes to talk amongst yourselves, and then hopefully we'll generate some good discussion because we can have a large group discussion between all of us. It's spread out.
And again, if you want to submit questions, use the link up front. You can just
How do we maintain upbeat expectations for the tech that dominates the modern experimentation space? What are other ways that university library services could be integrated with college residential life? And what should be avoided when designing maker, experiment, and hacker spaces? Take your pick. If you are if you're watching our live stream right now and you want to contribute to this conversation, please use the hashtag LITA Emerging Tech.
thank you.
wrap it up in about a minute. Sounds like we're having some pretty wonderful conversation. Anyone interested in sharing what they've been talking about? Melody has a microphone that we can walk around with. Any brave volunteers? We have audience submissions. So one question that's been asked is, how do you, your unit, your library administration define success for your efforts? How do you evaluate and assess the time, technology, and funding that you're investing? This is a really great question. So it's become pretty difficult. We definitely have some numbered data, especially when it comes to 3D printing. We capture a lot of what we're doing there, and we're able to show we've actually had 100% year-over-year growth in demand for like 3 consecutive years, and this year we're actually even increasing that quite a bit. The last 3 months we've had over a 30% increase in demand each month. So we're doing quite well there in terms of just numbers. But our dean is actually not very impressed with that. He's more impressed when we have stories, when we have just small tales of our advocates and the way they utilize our services. That seems to be what's most impactful for our administration. So anytime we have a success story of helping a faculty with research or even helping a student with a project they're working on, that's really what seems to be powerful and motivating, not only our library dean, but also the upper administration of the university.
I like this question here. Thoughts on starting these programs from somewhere with no starting point for them? Dive in, get your feet wet, start researching what other universities your size are doing, get faculty buy-in, get administration buy-in, provide that data to them to support how beneficial programs like these can be to your campus community. And definitely reach out to us. We're here to help as well. We might be a good place to bounce ideas off of or provide some recommendations. So I like that. Just jump in and try and don't give up.
We have a lot of consultations from people asking this very question. And one of the things I think that we can provide, so definitely reach out to us, is all the ways that we failed. And I think that that's incredibly valuable. Not spending the entirety of your money on your technology, really looking at your staff and increasing your staff skills seem to get a lot more bang for your buck than does buying the newest and latest and greatest. How would you recommend others justify the cost or pitch the justification to the university to fund such a thing? We'll talk about it in a minute with some of our use cases, but we like to actually show specifically with 3D printing and virtual reality how we've actually cut costs, how it's actually cheaper for us to use 3D printing as opposed to purchasing certain items. It's cheaper for us to visualize things in virtual reality rather than actually try to bring in an artifact to a classroom. It gives the same experience, lacking tactile and the VR, but we're working on it. But it comes much, much cheaper for the university. Anyone else like to share? Yes.
I've got 2 questions. One is kind of an in-use question, which is with the 3D print, you were describing kind of this pile of 3D print. Not terrible. But do you have privacy concerns leaving them? I mean, our 3D print shop, we keep them in bags because we don't want to respect the
I'll tell you, it's something we're actually failing at, right? Not failing completely. It's something that we're constantly trying to do better. You're absolutely right. We put them out on the shelf. They don't have identifying information for anyone. So yes, they're the 3D print there. Somebody can see what someone has 3D printed, but the only way they're identified is by like a row and column number for the most part. So no, the thing we're tossing around right now is actually a brown paper bag, basically, that we put it in just so that way people can't see it. We're trying to capture less and less personal and identifiable data as we move forward. But it's something that's definitely still an ongoing process, and we encourage anyone that tries to implement 3D printing services to probably not gather as much data as we did from the get-go, because we now feel like that's quite a liability, actually, yes.
That's a good question, thank you.
And a different question, but it's less than more philosophical. So just frame this as emerging technology. And I'm wondering how you distinguish yourself from the digital scholarship, which is under. And I do a lot of similar things myself, and
I don't think I have a good answer to that, honestly. What was that? Come in. I'm sorry, that just totally took me out of everything. So we actually have a digital scholarship team as well that we work very closely with. They primarily work in the digital humanities and with big data.
I think we're still defining that.
Yeah.
We provide a lot of access to technologies that the Digital Scholarship Lab may not have access to, and that specific expertise, that specialized skill set. We do a lot of collaborations between the Digital Scholarship Lab as well that provide a lot of good outcome, but for now I think we're focusing on those as collaborations, as collisions, as ideations.
Absolutely. And for our university, emerging technology really means it's not stable enough to go to IT. That's really all it means when we talk about it. And most of the things that we have in our digital scholarship lab are considered stable technologies. So that's kind of the differentiation for us. But I think you're very right in highlighting the murky waters of those phrases. Absolutely.
Oh, this is a good one. Did any members of your team have an earned graduate degree in library information science? Did any of you work in libraries prior to your joining this team? Whoever asked that, thank you.
Yeah, it's a great question. So one thing that I've been researching for a few years now is everyone with this emerging technology something job title. And what I found is about 40% of them have an MLIS. It's interesting. It's something like 80% have a master's degree in something random. So to answer the question more directly, no one on our team has an MLIS. Our boss, Matt Cook, and I are currently working on ours. We're both very close to finishing that. And then I worked in the public library setting for a few years before I came to the academics setting.
Yeah.
So no, we do not.
But let's see, my background comes from IT. I worked in campus IT, and prior to that I worked at Apple. So I focused on internal and external training. So my passion is bridging the gap between technology and its users, and my passion, I just followed it and led me here. I'm very thankful to be doing what I'm doing.
We have who wants to take the question right there? So this one and then one more that we have up here.
So you talked about having workshops and a lot of student engagement. How do you drum up and market those workshops? That has been a pain point in our library and with our students, is actually getting student engagement into workshops when they are offered.
Yeah, I love that. That's a great question. So I think it's important to publicize on social media, whatever platforms you may be using. We also collaborate with our marketing person within our library who shares our events to the main campus calendar. In addition to that, we build allies that also require some of those students to partake in 1 or 3 workshops per semester. So that's what we call course integrations. So they're requiring our students to come interact with the space in some way, shape, or form. In addition to that, we try to make some tangible takeaway for these workshops. So a really popular one, within a day of hosting this workshop, it was full, and it was Intro to Autodesk Inventor, led by one of our students. And the takeaway was design your own puzzle cubes. So through that, people will have that clear expectation of what they're walking into and what they're going to leave with. So I think it's really important to have those in addition to your 101 series, so people know what they're getting into.
Thank you for that. So our last question before we move on a little bit, if you could lift/remove any impediment for your ability to achieve success, other than funding, because of course it would probably be funding, what would it be? My answer to that is going to be fear. So we have a great fear of our technology in our patrons. It is so hard to get someone to put on a virtual reality headset, but once we get them in there once, it's usually pretty easy to get them back in there as long as they didn't get nauseous the first time because of graphics cards being wonky or something. And the same with 3D printing. Once we actually get someone to 3D print something once, they'll do it. But I would say that's our greatest enemy 9/10 of the time, is trying to overcome that fear of looking silly because you have a VR headset on. That's very difficult. We try to overcome it any way we can. We try to model behavior, show ourselves in it, but you can only do so much. It comes to a certain point where you can lead them to water that they have to drink.
I think it's important to show enthusiasm for the technology in your space as well, because if you don't have that buy-in from yourself, how are others going to have that buy-in? So whenever someone comes in and they have that hesitation, we want to be able to acknowledge that and align and be able to provide some justification of, hey, try this out. It'll be fine, I promise. If you don't like it, you can just stop. But seeing people have those aha moments and breaking down that fear and seeing them realize the benefit of what this technology can do for their lives is really transformative.
Absolutely. So moving on, I want to talk to you about our allies and our student employees. This is what actually makes us successful as a team on our campus. When we say allies, what we really mean are our faculty members who we integrate with their courses. We have a lot of actual graded course touchdowns where for specific courses, they'll actually have to come in and complete an assignment in our spaces using our technology. And then also research projects. We'll talk to you about a couple of use cases in just a moment. But we end up actually serving a pretty pivotal role in a lot of the research that goes on our campus by leveraging our skills as technologists. Our students are definitely we couldn't do it without them. Our administration, when a student gives us some sort of props or something on social media, that weighs heavier than 1,000 faculty emails, I feel like, a lot of times. So without our students, without those people who come in to 3D print every day, come in to use our VR machines every day, we wouldn't be here at LITA, and we wouldn't have our spaces on campus, and we wouldn't be able to leverage those spaces to increase our technological ability. We also have a lot of community members. Ashley's been incredibly wonderful at reaching out to our K-12 educators in the area. I don't know if you've heard about Oklahoma education, public education. It's not great. We're having a lot of problems there, and we try to supplement that as best as we can from our place in Norman. We also work with some of the robotics clubs around the area to help them with 3D printing, some of their electronics assembly and electronics design work. And most of these are primarily discovered through that outreach that I talked about previously, and requests to use our equipment, 3D print something, jump in virtual reality, use some of our microcontrollers, stuff like that. And our student employees are really what allow us to continue developing our own skills and conduct research. Because Ashley and I each manage a space, and if we didn't have those student employees, that's where we'd be. And that's what we do with our jobs all the time. Instead, we are able to really trust in our student employees to do a really great job. And we've tried to reciprocate that by developing some apprenticeships for like 3D printer maintenance, for example. We have 2 students that are following my haphazard work, I guess, in trying to learn how to work on these Lulzbot 3D printers. And then we also have a few specialized roles like marketing, community outreach, workshop coordination, and kind of data entry jobs that work on kind of web presence for the most part.
You want to talk about Paula for a second? Yes, so one of our students, her name is Paula. She works in our Innovation at the Edge. She's worked there for a few years now. She recently applied for an internship in California with a medical group, and she went through an application process. I kind of asked her how that went, and she told me that they asked a lot of questions about her experience with emerging technologies. So 3D printers, virtual reality, 3D scanning, and she realized how valuable her experience being a student employee was here in our space. And I remember her sharing the story with me of meeting people from Cornell and Harvard and just telling me, I don't think I'm going to get this internship. And I told her, don't devalue yourself, don't devalue your skill set. And it turns out she got the job. She got the internship. It was really awesome. And she told me that the majority of her conversations and her interviews were centered around her experience in our makerspace. So I think it's really important to help build the next generation of people that maybe one day be in our roles. So definitely encourage your students to explore and fail, because failure is a beautiful teacher. We all have to experience that at some point in time. But also when you're hiring, keep in mind you want to hire for people's skill sets. So if someone doesn't have a technological background, that's okay. That was a big foundation of when I worked at Apple. We would hire people for their ability to communicate and engage with people. We can teach the technical skills later. If they already know those bonus. But keep that in mind. Definitely give back, and hopefully one day we'll see those individuals in roles like ours.
So we're going to go over a few use cases. I'd like to talk about kind of 3 umbrellas. This doesn't represent like comprehensive our work so far. It's just a few examples. So we really like focusing on cutting student costs. So cutting the cost for students to engage, to learn, and to read really. I know that sounds kind of hokey, but it really, I'll give you a story in a second. And then research and development that we would do with faculty members for the most part, and a series of course integrations that we have. To be frank, whenever I was in college, I always wanted to learn more musical instruments. I wanted to learn how to play more, but I couldn't afford it. I didn't have access to instruments. There was just no possible way that I would have been able to learn the things I wanted. So we targeted that pretty early on, that we wanted to try to 3D print some musical instruments, and our main aim was to reproduce tone. We wanted to make them sound okay. We wanted to make them playable in the way that the real instruments are playable, and we wanted them to be cheap. So those were kind of our 3 goals. We've had 2 pretty big successes so far. We have a ukulele that we can print for about $10. That's including purchasing the tuning peg keys and strings. We have a violin that we can print for about $43, and that includes bow, strings, tuning pegs. Right? Yeah, that's right. So that was more of a passion project, and I didn't want kids to have the same problems I did. If they wanted to learn how to play an instrument, I wanted them to be able to learn how to play that instrument. Then we heard from one of our anatomy professors that students were having to purchase these really expensive bone sets that were made of cheap plastic, and they were poured into a mold, and so they had these gross seams, and there was a lot of problems. I guess students would come up to the anatomy professors and be like, does everyone have this line down their bone? Because it was just the seam with the 2 pieces of plastic. And so once we heard that, we decided, okay, well, let's 3D print these. So in our research, we found to buy a model of your hip to your foot costs anywhere from $81 to $141. It costs about $10 to produce that. And that's way overestimating. That's assuming I'm going to break apart on the printer every single time I do it, which I'm not going to. And they're also more accurate. We're using photogrammetry to do 3D scans of actual human bones. So ours are very, very, very accurate relative to these expensive ones that you can purchase online. And what we're aiming for in the future is complete human skeleton that you can check out from our circulation desk, and you can check out from from the anatomy department directly. Just in case you're wondering, they're 2/3 size. It's be a lot to carry. And so one of the things I'm most proud of right now is one of our research and development goals we finally achieved that looked a little bit impossible for a while, and that's to take a scanning electron microscope data and create accurate 3D models and 3D prints from 2-dimensional images. So what we do is we use grayscale brightness maps that have a scale on the side of them that tell us what that represents, and we convert that a little tediously to make sure that all of the depths show up properly. And you can see there to the right a few examples of 3 different iterations. The one on the far right is the newest and best of it. Eventually that top will look much better with the topography actually being represented by different colors. In case you're wondering, that entire scan, the scale from top to bottom is about 275 microns, so we're talking about itty-bitty. So this makes it much easier for a researcher or a layperson to understand what's really going on this data, because they can actually tangibly look at it, you can feel it. This provides a new perspective. And this kind of represented an establishment of our full 3D workflow that we had worked through for that personal professional development for quite a bit of time. We can now do outside in design. We can bring pretty much anything from the outside world into the digital world, and we can also bring most things from the digital world or imagination into the outside world using digital fabrication, 3D printing, CNC machines, stuff like that. Then we, just to kind of show you how well we've done on campus, in the 2017-18 school year, we had over 600 course touchdowns that were 4 graded assignment involving our services, primarily virtual reality, but also involving 3D printing.
To give you a little bit of a better idea of the level of impact learning technologies are having on our campus has 13 colleges on campus, and our emerging technology team is embedded in at least 11 of those. Our goal in spring is to be embedded in all 13, but that's pretty profound, and those have ripple effects as well, so definitely keep pushing forward. All right, I'm going to talk a little bit about our outreach use cases. So the beautiful thing about our team that I love is we don't really have any boundaries, and we're kind of defining our role as we go. And something that I think is really important is to get back to your community. We have this very specialized skill set, and we're very fortunate to have these technologies at our disposable. And I think it's important to share these with other people. So we've done some outreach events where we've gone to K-12 schools. We recently went to a school in Oklahoma City that's 89% free and reduced lunch and provided an emerging tech day. So these kids may not have access to emerging technologies such as 3D printers or virtual reality or 3D scanning. So we provided a little bit of a hands-on exploration area where kids can come in and 3D scan themselves and see what a 3D model looks like for the first time, or even translate that into a 3D print, or put on a virtual reality headset and see what it's like to fly through the human body and explore different aspects of learning. So things like that are really important. We also did an event a couple weeks ago where we brought in 318 high school girls from across the state to get them excited about STEM careers through hands-on experience, learning, and kind of showcasing, hey, you can do development, you can do programming, all these different things that can lead up to emerging technologies or a possibility. We also provide some grant resources for public educators that want to get these emerging technologies into the classroom. So like Bobby mentioned earlier, we have 2 Oculus Go headsets. So those came out in May. And those are really great. They're all in one. They're really low price point of $200. And a lot of public educators are incorporating them into the classroom because it's easy, accessible, doesn't require too much of a learning curve, and there's a large variety of educational experiences available to them. We also provide a VR recommendations master list that kind of incorporates what experience is tied to what discipline, whether it be humanities or math or science or even art or music. So if you want that list, please reach out to us. We're happy to provide that to you. And that list is constantly growing, so feel free to add something of your own if you feel like something is missing. So with that, I think the most important thing to highlight is giving individuals that hands-on experience and giving them the ability to kind of experiment for their own and, like we said earlier, fail and learn from mistakes. We're also very integrated into committee involvement within our library. We kind of integrated emerging technology into the library staff training. So with that comes a buddy system where that incorporates people from different departments to collaborate with each other and get out of those silos that we all know happen within a library setting. We also provide opportunities for new student orientation. So every time a freshman class comes in, they come to the library, they get access to these spaces and learn what's possible within those spaces and how free and accessible it is to them. We're also involved in the annual Academic Technology Expo. This is an expo that happens every year that's centered around IT. So with this, I think it's important for the community to understand what emerging technologies are and how they can be incorporated across multiple disciplines. It's something that I'm really excited about, and so is our Dean, Carl, is the Digital Skills Hub initiative. So this initiative is both in an online format and an in-person format. And our goal for this is to connect the campus community with experts in the field, whether that be virtual reality or machine learning or 3D modeling or analyzing data sets. So like someone mentioned earlier, Digital Scholarship Laboratory, they are also involved in this Digital Skills Hub initiative. So it's not just us, but we're hoping to provide access and information for individuals that want to learn how to create a 3D model at 2 a.m. They will have different resources available to them and learning experiences, but also if they want to take that a step further, they can be connected with an expert in their field to answer those specific questions. So the idea is hopefully we get this to be an automated process, but until then we're still piloting it, but we've had a really good amount of feedback so far from both students and faculty and staff. And the big thing about that is promoting digital literacy. We all know the world that we live in, and hopefully we can help educate individuals on ethics of technology and digital literacy in that home. So with that, we're going to move into our next round of questioning. So we've got some good discussions here. So what are the best practices for attracting and maintaining faculty and community allies? Should today's librarian have a role in library research and development? Why or why not? Who should carry the staffing burden for salary, benefits, management of library research and development?
Just for the record, we're getting as much out of your responses
Yes.
as you might get out of the discussion. These are questions that we have. I do want to highlight a question that we received during the talk. For printing student bone sets, is all of that free to students as well, or do they pay for a portion of that? I mean, if you follow the money enough, they probably pay for a portion of it somewhere. But we're actually trying to do this totally through grants with individual departments departments and interdepartmental grants. And so even our materials costs, we're trying to make sure never actually falls back on the student or they're paying any more than they've already paid for university. So that's what we're trying to do. And if they come and get it from the circulation desk, then it's just covered in their library fee for the most part. No, totally covered in the library fee.
Good question, thank you. So we'll do 5 minutes of discussion and then we'll return.
Oh, right, 180 video. I've also put my face in front of it. All right, Ashley and I are a little long-winded, so we're cutting you just a tiny bit short. Sorry about that.
But thank you for discussing.
Anyone interested in sharing some of your discussion? I told you
That's
we were
all right.
getting stuff out of
That's
it,
okay.
and then it went away. I see, I see. Wesley.
Since I do very similar job to you guys as at university teach, I think one thing that we do, which I mentioned to at another session, is fortunately the provost is really an advocate to experiential learning. And so what we do is we have to get allies to our space, we actually offer, if you complete X amount of workshops, you can actually get priority registration for class. And so after 10 sessions, and there's experiential learning workshops throughout the campus, and libraries have a large portion of that. You do 10, you get prior registration for the next semester, and if you continue that for 4 years, then you get a distinction at graduation. But what makes it nice is that it allows for people to always be coming to our workshops. Whether interested or not, it keeps our numbers up. We always have an average of 15 to 20 people per workshop in the library just due to this fact.
That's an awesome idea.
Yeah, thank you.
Definitely gonna try to steal that. That's great, thank you. Do you have any more?
I think we'll continue to come
Yeah.
forward, yeah. So, like we mentioned earlier, we have a very diverse skill set. These are little snapshots of us and our personalities. So Matt, our boss, he comes from a background in philosophy of the mind. He's works on research and development management and 3D visualization. Bobby comes from a great background. He's focused on 3D printing, 3D modeling, augmented reality. Like I said earlier, my focus is instruction, training, outreach, a little bit of 360 video and photography. And our colleagues, Christy, our resident photogrammetry and 3D scanning expert. She just got back from a great conference in San Francisco from the Cultural Heritage Imaging Center, so she's equipped with all those skills to really take photogrammetry to the next level, as well as hardware prototyping. And John, our software development, is bringing all of our ideas to life in virtual reality. And we'll talk a little bit more about some really cool things coming down the pipeline from our team.
So one thing about our team that's weird, probably more than anything else, none of us come from electronics or tech background for the most part. Matt comes from a philosophy background, all the way through his master's. I come from a literature background. I have my bachelor's and master's in literature before I started my MLS. And then I was a public school teacher and a public librarian before this. Ashley was at the Apple. You're probably the most tech person out of all of us, really. And then Christy actually came from a art museum background. John, who you'll never see because he refused to be photographed and he may or may not be real, he's probably, I guess he's the one with the most tech background. He actually comes from a chemistry background where he did a lot of supercomputing. So it wasn't necessarily like tech knowledge that we had that made our group powerful. It was an interest in tech and a willing to constantly develop our skill set.
Yes, and I think something really important to highlight is I feel like our team works so well together because our passion just happens to collide with our profession. So really cool things happen when we come together and collaborate. So we value that.
So we want to give you a little preview of kind of some of the things we're working on moving forward. Our dean has kind of charged us with, okay, you're good with the things that you were